Hello guys and welcome to App Screencast, Danny here. In today's video I just want to talk about the iPhone 5 which was announced yesterday. Now I don't want to make this into like a recap video where I just like call off all the specs of the new iPhone. I'm sure you've all seen that in the news. But what I did want to talk about is my opinions of the iPhone 5 and also will I be upgrading. Now if you don't know, I'm actually an iPhone 4 user and I have been for about 2 years now. And when the iPhone 4S was just about to be announced, I was considering maybe upgrading then. But I was at the time hoping that the new iPhone would have a bigger screen, possibly LTE, and also maybe a better front-facing camera. And the iPhone 4S arrived, and it obviously didn't have none of them things, so I decided not to upgrade. Obviously part of me did want to upgrade to the new iPhone at the time, just because I'm a massive iPhone fan. But I'm glad I kind of held off and never bothered and stuck with the iPhone 4, which is still a really good phone. Now the new iPhone 5 has been released, and it's kind of had them spec upgrades, which I was hoping for 12 months ago. So am I going to be upgrading to the new iPhone, or is it kind of a little too late? And to be honest, looking at the new iPhone, I'm probably going to upgrade. I'm about 99% positive I will be, unless I suddenly have a change of heart. And the reason is because I just think it is a really big update on the iPhone. Now a lot of people are comparing the new iPhone to its like competitors, like from Samsung, etc., Nokia, and saying that it's catch up and it's not even as good as them phones. And probably on the spec sheet, it's very close to them phones. Maybe it's slightly behind, maybe it's better in some areas. But a lot of people are saying it's not a big upgrade from the iPhone 4S. Now, I think people say that. I always surprise me because there's been a massive improvement in mobile phone technology over the past maybe 5 years. And I think it's slowly beginning to slow down the like innovation and kind of the spec bumps we're getting. I reckon it's not going to be as interesting, the mobile phone space, over the next few years, just because I think you can't keep innovating every year, bringing out new things. These phones are getting super powerful. They're basically like little mini computers, awesome cameras, kind of everything you would expect these new phones have, and they haven't really got. There's nothing new they can really bring to the mobile space at the minute, in my opinion, apart from speed upgrades and things like that. But there's not going to be nothing new, really, what they can bring. But it always makes me laugh when people say that the new iPhone's no better than the old iPhone, or it's hardly any different. Because it seems to come a lot from people who are like Android users. And I always think, they always say the iPhone's never changes and that. But I have a question to them people. The Samsung Galaxy S3 is probably the biggest selling phone at the minute. And really, how much different is that from the Galaxy S2? And when you look at it on paper, there's a few spec upgrades, but really when it comes down to it, there's no killer feature really compared to the Galaxy S2. You could say, well, the screen's slightly bigger, and the camera's a little bit better, it's faster, it's more... Well, that's the same with iPhone. The iPhone 5 is all them things to the iPhone 4S. So it always makes me laugh when they say that the new iPhone's a massive disappointment. Apple have fallen behind, Apple have lost their spark or whatever it may be. And I think that's totally untrue. Now, maybe the Samsung Galaxy S3 on paper is a better spec phone than iPhone 5, possibly. But in real life or in real tests, specs don't count for anything. They're just numbers on a sheet. It comes down to the whole user experience. Now, I don't want to make this into an Android versus iPhone argument because it's all down to personal opinion. Some people are going to love Android more, some people are going to love iPhone. And I think we should try and respect each other's personal opinion. I know people can get a little bit heated in the comments saying the iPhone's crap or Android's crap. And really, I don't think we should do that. It's all down to personal preference. Now, moving on to the iPhone 5. Obviously, we've seen that they're going to improve the screen. It's going to be a larger screen, 4-inch screen. Now, what I really like about this is I was kind of hoping for something like a 4-inch screen. Maybe 4.2, 4.3. I do always think bigger is better because I think having a really big screen is obviously, there's like an advantage there. But I'm a big fan of using my phone one-handed and it to feel nice in the hand. And Apple have made a big point about it still feels really nice in the hand and you can use it one-handed. And I've been saying this probably for the last 2 years that these really big smartphones on the market are not as good in the hand and definitely not in one hand, and they don't feel as nice and they're harder to use one-handed. And if you go back and have a look at my review of the HD Sensation XL, you will see I actually pretty much said that in that video that I like the big screen, but I personally prefer a slightly smaller screen. A phone I have reviewed on my channel, you may have seen, is a Nokia Lumia 800, which is very similar size to the new iPhone. And I actually said I really liked the size of that phone and how it felt in the hand. So for me, around about the 4-inch, maybe slightly bigger, is kind of the sweet spot in my opinion. So the screen is not going to be no wider this way, but it's going to be actually taller, which I think is kind of spot on. It's going to feel just like this phone in the hand, but obviously give you that little bit more screen real estate. Now, a little disappointment, and this is kind of a bad thing about Apple, in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, is that a lot of the applications out there, the third-party applications, are not going to be able to fit the screen. You're going to get black bars. Now, obviously, a lot of these developers will quickly update their apps, hopefully, and most of the apps, or at least the most popular apps, will fit the screen perfectly. But obviously, there are going to be a few apps will take time to maybe update, and maybe some apps will never get updated, and they will have black bars top and bottom. Now, I think the problem with Apple is they keep everything so secretive, even to the actual third-party developers, that they can't get prepared for when the new iPhone comes out. So when the new iPhone 5 comes out, all these apps are not going to work on the iPhone 5 as they should, or as you would hope, in terms of filling the screen. And I really dislike that, but I understand why Apple do it, because they like to keep everything secretive, then just cause loads of rumours, make everyone a big buzz about the iPhone 5 in the press, and when it finally does hit and launch, everyone goes crazy, and it's basically like free press for Apple and the new iPhone. So I understand why Apple do that. In some ways it's good, but in some ways it's bad. For obviously the developers, it's really bad. And kind of to the user, to a certain degree, it's bad as well. Another thing we're going to see on the new iPhone 5 is the LTE connectivity, LTE internet. And I think that's going to be great, obviously, because probably one of the biggest things I dislike about my iPhone, and probably any smartphone, is actually the slow internet. It really does hinder the performance. It's great having a really powerful phone, what's really snappy and just, you know, responds great, but then you go on the internet and it's like you're waiting for pages to load and so on, or videos to buffer. Now, in the UK, we haven't got LTE coverage as of yet, but Orange and T-Mobile are launching the LTE network this year. So, big news for me, or positive thing for me, is that it will actually work on the UK networks. So that's going to be massive now. So even though in my area I might not get LTE network within the next few months, it may take 6 months or whatever, at least I know the new iPhone 5 will kind of be future-proofed a little bit and will actually run on the UK networks, and I'll be able to get that full speed on the internet at some point in the future, which is great. So that's a massive plus. You know, it'd been a bit bad if the new iPhone come out in this country but the LTE network didn't work. That would have been a massive downer. And obviously Apple, to compete with the other phone manufacturers, really needed to obviously put LTE in there. We kind of expected it just because we've seen it in the iPad. And it obviously brings the iPhone up to kind of the new standard, as it were. Now, another thing we're going to see is an improved camera. Now, if you look at the spec sheet, it's actually pretty much all the specs are very similar, or even the same as the iPhone 4S. But Apple did say that it actually does perform it better in low light, and they've actually tweaked it a little bit and improved it. Now, most people I know who've got an iPhone, one of the things they love about it most is probably the back-facing camera. So obviously this is really important to people, and it's good that Apple are obviously continuing to try and improve the camera and focus on it quite a bit. Now, obviously a megapixel upgrade would have been nice, but megapixels don't really mean out. It's all about the quality of the pictures, how the camera performs in low light, and so on. So the camera is going to obviously be very good and probably one of the best on the market once again. Also, this is kind of a thing I've wanted to see for a while, is that Apple's going to finally improve the front-facing camera. Now, the front-facing camera will be able to record in HD, I think it's 720p, so the actual video quality we'll get from the front-facing camera should be quite improved. Now, this is obviously going to be for things like FaceTime, and obviously we can use it for Skype and stuff like that. But for me, I'm thinking about it could be a good thing for actually doing like vlogs, like recording yourself and obviously speaking to the camera, and you can obviously view yourself on the screen. So for me, that's kind of the thing I wanted to see from the new iPhone, is actually a front-facing camera which is actually decent enough quality for HD video. It's also meant to be able to perform better in low light as well, which I think is good. So that's a feature I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing some vlogs, and I'm thinking using your iPhone for vlogging would be really cool. Also, the next iPhone is going to be thinner. It's going to be 7.1mm thick. Now, that's quite a bit thinner than the current iPhone, and it's quite crazy that they keep making the iPhone thinner and thinner. But that's kind of a thing through all Apple designs, from the laptops to the iMacs and so on. They keep trying to make the actual devices thinner and lighter, which is really good. Lighter the better. With the phone, it's getting to a point that making it slightly thinner, slightly lighter doesn't make a big deal because it's already quite thin and light. But one thing I would say about this, making the iPhone thinner and lighter, what they'll learn from that, they'll be able to put into their other devices like the MacBook Airs, and also, more importantly, the iPad, because the iPad's pretty thin, but it could afford to be thinner, and more importantly, it could afford to definitely be lighter. So what they'll learn from making the iPhone 5 thinner and lighter, they will hopefully put that kind of technology or that design into the new iPads. So that can only be a good thing overall for Apple. And it makes you wonder how thin will they actually go with the iPhones if they keep improving them in terms of thinness. It will one day will we have an iPhone as thin as a credit card? I probably much doubt that, but who knows, maybe in the next 10 years, we never know. So moving on to the dock connector, which is kind of related to that. It's going to be a smaller dock connector. It's a 9-pin dock connector, whereas currently we've got a 32-pin on current generation iPhones. And it's actually going to be a smaller dock connector, so if you've got any, let's say, iPhone docks or whatever, your current iPhone, sorry, the new iPhone will not fit in the current dock you may be using. And a lot of people are a bit annoyed by this, and I can understand why people are, because if you're someone who's going to spend a lot of money on a kind of stereo dock, maybe a Bose system which maybe cost you 300 quid, or even something which cost you 50 quid, and you maybe not had it long, you get the new iPhone, it's not going to fit. And I can see why people are really annoyed, but you've got to remember that that 32-pin dock connector is being used pretty much since the first iPhone, I believe. Yeah, since the first iPhone. So that was like over 6 years ago, was it? And I assume they were using it even before that. I can't remember, to be honest. And the problem you've got when you're still supporting an old connector, it's still supporting old technologies like analog signals and things what the iPhone no longer uses or needs. And I know a lot of people think Apple are just trying to rip us off, making us buy new, I don't know, dock adapters and new docks and stuff. And I disagree with that. I think Apple are just trying to carry on improving the iPhone design and trying to move things forward. And you can't kind of stay in the past, you've got to kind of improve things. One thing I think is really bad, and Apple shouldn't really do this, the actual dock adapter, what they're bringing out, which will fit into the new iPhone, then it'll allow you to dock it on old docks. One, it's crap because it makes your iPhone stick out loads more, and it just looks really stupid probably, but obviously I'd have to test one out to see if it actually works with my dock. But the biggest thing about it is it's really expensive. It's going to be like 25 quid for a little bit of plastic with like a little few pins on it, and it's a complete rip-off really. Apple will actually try and charge people 25 quid for something like that, and that is kind of taking a liberty, and I don't really think they should do that, and it is a money-making like scheme from Apple. So, you know, I'm a big Apple fan, I love the products, but I got to admit that is kind of a bit shocking. Now, what am I going to do is, I've only got one dock, and I'll probably just give it away to someone who's got an old iPhone, and I'll probably upgrade my dock. But to be honest, I don't even use my dock that much, so I'll probably not even bother. So it's not a big deal for me, and I do think Apple do need to really change the dock connector if they feel it's holding back the design of the iPhone. So I'm going to leave the video there. I've waffled on a little bit too much, so sorry about that. Just my final thoughts is I will be getting an iPhone, I'm pretty sure of that. And I think some people might be a little bit disappointed with the iPhone, but I think that's people wanting too much when they see these Apple events. They're expecting massive things, and you're just not going to get that now. I reckon the mobile phone space, we're not going to see any massive innovations over the next few years. And I think that's the same for Apple or any phone manufacturer. I think in terms of hardware at least, I think things where they will try and compete and we'll see a lot more competition will be with the software and the services they provide. So I think Google have a massive part to play in that with obviously their services and software, and same with Apple. And I think that's where we'll see big competition and a little bit more innovation. And I think Apple will obviously still focus on the iPhone because it's kind of their #1 selling device, but I think it'll appear that they're not focusing as much on it, and they'll actually focus a lot of time on Apple TV. And I think in 2013, 2014, we'll see them focusing heavy on TV and try and reinvent the television, as it were. Either a real TV or maybe just a box what connects to the TV. But I think that's where Apple will focus a lot of their time and efforts on. And I think when they do that, we'll see the likes of Google with Google TV. They'll start focusing a lot more of their efforts and time, and they'll all be trying to compete. And that's where I think we'll see a lot more innovation over the next few years. So thanks for watching this video, everyone. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.